It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name's Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are y'all doing?
Swell.
Some of us are a little further away from our mics than others, but everything else, otherwise, we're good.
I'm sorry. Oh, it's going to be fun tonight. Woo-hoo. It has been fun tonight. Let me what am I talking about? Hope everybody out there is doing okay. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
I still don't have a lot, so I'm gonna pass this week again.
Again?
Okay. Yeah.
You better come up with something next week, young lady.
Right.
Damn it, Liz, if you don't do something fun next week, I'm going to come over there now.
I didn't want to start the show off on a low note.
It's
you know.
fine. It's okay. No worries. As we found out last week, our shows are a lot shorter when you don't have anything.
Right.
I was looking at that going, really? And I'm trying to remember back to the last time we released an episode that was under an hour, and I have no idea. It's been years.
Probably like episode 3, maybe.
Oh, no, hell no. We actually kept them to like 30 minutes for quite a while at the beginning. So, I mean, a few months anyway. It didn't take us long to warm up, but, you know. Anyway, that's not getting us any further into what we did this week. Me and my weird.
No, but we're making the episode last a little bit longer. So
me and my smart ass production jokes.
Stretch.
Oh, whatever. It doesn't matter. we got a nice long conversation in the middle this time, so it's cool. Okay, yeah, this week, what'd I do? I almost didn't have anything either, so I'm glad I managed to watch at least a short movie. And the movie I watched was fairly short. I sort of stumbled across it because I've gotten to where as far as movies go, I just live on Tubi anymore because, God, they've got so much stuff. It's so. I mean, they don't have everything in every category, but they have just enough to keep you kind of guessing and curious. But in this case,
wide variety.
Yeah, maybe not a deep variety, but a wide variety for sure. But in this case, I stumbled across a Buster Keaton movie. I watched Sherlock Jr., which is from 1924. And I mean, there's not much you can say about a Buster Keaton movie. It is always a hoot to watch a Buster Keaton movie. This is not surprisingly, given the title, this is the one where he is. He starts out. He works in a movie theater, which is a fun way to start off a movie in 1924. And he like on the side while he's not working, he's reading a book on how to be a detective. And so then later on, we stumble into, without going into too much detail, it's a 44-minute movie. So go watch the damn thing. It's awesome. I don't care if you don't like silent movies or not. Go watch it. But yeah, at one point he like falls asleep while he's working, and we tumble into this dream segment, which is actually kind of cool, where he's all dressed up and in fancy clothes, and he's this master detective on the case, and that sequence lasts for God at least 10, 12 minutes. And there's also a scene early on where he's following a guy. He's following the guy who he thinks stole the thing that got stolen that started all of this, and you get to this fun little bit with a train, with him basically running along the top of a moving train. And you can do this the way he's doing it. You can do it with a stationary camera, which makes it a whole lot easier for them. But yeah, and there's this water tower in the background, and it's a fun little sequence. But yeah, so any Buster Keaton movie you get a chance to watch, you should do it. I haven't looked to see how many more Tubi has. I need to do that. There's bound to be at least 3 or 4, and it wouldn't surprise me if there's more of them. But they are a joy.
Nice.
Sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Alrighty, Les.
I started reading the John Carter of Mars series, and it's quite the endeavor. This is a series that I am enjoying, and it's one that I'm not able to just fly through. You have to take your time and read each word, because it means a lot into the whole scope of the series. First book, of course, is Princess of Mars, where Carter first goes to Barsoom. And like I said, I have to sit and take in everything. This is not a sped-ridden course by any means. So it's been fun, and I look forward to the next 10 books. It's a 12-book series, so off and running.
Nice.
Yeah, and if it helps, as I recall, each book individually is not terribly long. So,
No.
but yet they are dense. I have read a couple of Burroughs books, and the language is pretty dense. But yeah, so a dozen books sounds like a lot, but I mean, they probably average 200 pages.
Yeah, you're right.
It's very doable. Just do it in small chunks. It's all good. They're worth checking out.
I have not read the novels. I need to.
I've read the Tarzan novels, so this is going back and trying something different.
Well, for me, not a whole heck of a lot. I did kind of find myself going back and mashing again. And it's funny, the more I watch, the more stuff the inconsistencies I catch. It's so funny that it's taken me so long to catch some of this stuff and go, okay, what the hell? Because I've mentioned some of this before, so I'm going to point out a couple more here. And I'll say this, pointing out that this was a series in the 70s and 80s where they didn't worry about continuity. They didn't worry about keeping track of stuff. They were just trying to write an episode for production to be aired, and then that was going to be it. Well before the era of binge watching or anything like that. So keep that in mind when I point out some of this stuff. Early in, I think it was season 4 or season 5, There was the whole thing of Colonel Potter about to become grandfather, and he talks about having a son who's a dentist. Okay? Now, fast forward about 2 or 3 years, the son doesn't exist anymore. He has a daughter. And even in the season 11, his son-in-law comes to Korea as while he was actually going to Tokyo on business, and they were able to make arrangements where he could come visit the MASH unit. So I was like, that's kind of weird. I mean, even in the episode to interview, he mentions having a son and a daughter-in-law and a grandbaby, but all of a sudden that disappears, and it's now a daughter and a son-in-law and a grandkid. I'm like, okay, that's
interesting. Because I would have,
well,
if you'd asked me, I would have said he had a daughter, because I don't
yeah,
remember the earlier one.
yeah.
Interesting.
And then here's another one that I've never thought about. There was, I think it was the season 10 finale. It was either season 9 or season 10. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter at this point. The episode was BJ making all the arrangements where all the family. No, it couldn't have been, because Radar was still there. So we're talking about maybe season 6 or season 7. Okay. So season 6 or season 7. The arrangements where all the families would meet together in New York and kind of have the party, the reunion party. Y'all remember that one?
That sounds familiar, yeah.
Where they sent pictures of them to be there at the party as well. You know, there was this whole thing. There was this nice little story in there about Cleaner saying, I can't do this because I told my mom I'm not in Korea, that I'm actually still on stateside. So they did the whole thing of taking a picture and putting up a sign saying Fort Dix, so they can maintain the illusion that Klinger is not in Korea. And then right toward the end, BJ's wife Peg had wrote a letter talking about how wonderful everything went. And then she mentions that Klinger's mom knew he was in Korea the entire time, and he's like, "Well, I could never fool her." Okay, it's a sweet little story. It's a sweet little thing. I love it. Here's the problem: Klinger was on both interview episodes where he says hi to his family from Korea.
Oops.
Which one of them happened before that episode? So it's like, so, this is actually kind of fun now, kind of catch this kind of stuff. I mean, I've stopped trying to figure out the timeline and all that, because that's never going to work.
Right.
But just some of this type of stuff, it's kind of fun to catch. So that tells you how my life is right now. So, anyway, before we get into this week's discussion, well, not really discussion, but whatever you would like to call it, I do want to point conversation. We could do it as a conversation. There you go. I do want to point out that we have a Discord that's available for y'all to come join us if y'all want to hang out with us. We post a lot of news items, stuff for discussion, stuff to laugh at, this, that, and the other. We do events on there. If you don't have a Discord account, it's free to sign up. There, you can get it's on all the app stores. We do have open invitation on our homepage, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and come join us and have some fun with us if you want.
Yep, we have a pretty good time.
Okay, for this week, we had recorded an interview with Madeline Holly Rosen. Longtime listeners know we've had her on. We've had her on several times before. She's the writer creator of Boston Metaphysical Society, and she has a new Kickstarter for the new miniseries. It's going on now as we speak, so we'll have a link in the show notes and all that for you to check it out. So we discussed the new Kickstarter, spent some time talking about the audio drama, which was when we had her on last, which was I think we determined it was about a year and a half ago or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we talk about that as well, and just kind of catch up. So with all that, here is our interview with Madeline. Madeline, thanks for joining us. It's always great to have you with us. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on the show again. It's been a little while, hasn't it been?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I don't think we had you on last year, did we?
I don't think so. I think I wanted to give you guys a break.
Oh.
Yeah, sure. That's what it was. No.
That's
Yeah, last time was the audio drama.
It was the audio drama.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then since then, last year I did a Kickstarter for Volume 2, which compiled all the sequels. But yeah, I don't like to overstay my welcome. So.
Oh no, you're always more than welcome to be with us. Yeah.
Yep. Well, thank you.
Before we get into the next new Kickstarter, for some who may not know what Boston it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day.
You can't say it fast. This is the deal. You just can't do it. It can't be done.
Well, you can't say it when you only have about 2 or 3 hours sleep, too.
Well, that too.
Give a little description of the Boston Metaphysical Society.
Sure. For those in your audience who don't know, I'm Madeline Holly Rosen, the writer-creator of Boston Metaphysical Society, which is a steampunk, supernatural, graphic novel, prose, and audio drama series. And the basic premise of the story is about an ex-Pinkerton detective, a spirit photographer, and a genius scientist who battles supernatural forces in late 1800s Boston. We started with a 6-issue miniseries that went to trade with art by Emily Hugh. And then I went ahead and did 4 standalone one-shots with Gwen Tavares was the artist and colorist on that. And then we did our audio drama, which is a full cast, special effects, original music, like your old-time radio dramas. And now we're launching a brand new 4-issue miniseries called Mystery at Pike's Peak. And we have a whole new team on board. Elizabeth McKedza is my artist. Katie Brown is doing the colors. And, of course, Troy Pateri is back on board doing the lettering. And I'm doing a couple new things this time, which I haven't done before. I have variant covers. I have 2 variant covers, one for issue 1 and one for issue 2. And we have some metal covers as well. So I thought we'd have some fun with that. And the main covers are done by Angela Wu, and the variant covers are done by Rio Burton and Steph C.
Very nice. And when does this kick off? Or this is all Kickstarter?
Yes, this will be on Kickstarter. We launch March 1st, which, well, I guess this drops on Friday, if I remember correctly.
Sunday.
Or Sunday.
So it'll be up for a few days, so it'll be live.
It'll be up by then. And hopefully we'll be funded by then.
If history has anything to say about it, I bet you will.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yes. I do plan for these things. You guys are my first of 24 interviews I'm doing over the next month.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
So, yeah, I found for those who are thinking about or have run Kickstarters, doing podcasts like yours is a great way to get the word out, particularly during that dreaded dead period in the middle of all Kickstarters.
Yeah.
And, it may not necessarily be dead, but it definitely slows down. So it helps to get out there and talk to the folks. So I will probably not have a voice by the end of March.
Good thing we got you early.
Yeah, and I'm also doing WonderCon. And I don't normally do cons while I'm running a convention, but just timing-wise, it worked out this way. So people can come by and take a look at our current stuff and talk to me about the news story, which is, if I haven't mentioned it, which I don't think I have.
I was about to say, you should tell us about the news story.
The news story. We're going to Colorado Springs. And basically the team, after the last standalone, which is called The Book of Demons, they're fleeing arrest in Boston and arrive at the only safe haven they have, which is Tesla's experimental station in Colorado Springs. And there they not only, of course, meet Tesla, but his most unlikely partner. Her name is Mai Hui Chao, who is a scientist from the Great House Chao in California. Their life gets more complicated when an attempt is made on Tesla's life, and Caitlin's psychic abilities take a dangerous turn. Now they must figure out who is trying to kill Tesla and what Caitlin's visions are trying to tell her before anyone else dies. So, yeah, I wanted to do a murder mystery this time, and so that turned out to be kind of fun. And bring in some new great houses that we have maybe either in prose or in the graphic novels or touched upon, but you don't really know much about them. But yeah, great houses just don't exist in the Boston metaphysical universe. Great houses exist all over the country. And in the alternate history universe that I have put together, the Chinese Exclusionary Act never happened. And so there is a thriving Chinese community in California and throughout the Southwest. So it was just really interesting to be able to dive into that part and open up a new bad guy, which I don't want to give away spoilers here.
Yeah, no, don't. Absolutely. I want to be surprised.
We only reveal spoilers that are like 40 or 50 years old, so.
Okay. That's fair. But yeah, it's kind of fun because if you've, as you know, everything is pretty much a standalone, including the novels and the anthology and everything, and the Ghost Ship, the audio drama as well. But you'll hear the characters refer to or talk about different houses and the politics that are involved. And so now I, pulled some of those tidbits from those other stories to help the creative flow for this one. And I get to bring in another female scientist that I made up. So I can do that. Since I'm the writer, I can do that.
Absolutely.
I've been meaning to ask you about that.
Plus, Tesla was, I'm afraid, I don't want to upset anybody, but he was rather misogynistic, and so we definitely deal with that.
Yeah, see, this is the kind of the exciting part for me in this is I've been waiting a while for you to get a chance to get around to Tesla and fleshing him out as a character. I've been interested in how you're gonna handle him. So this is kind of exciting for me, honestly.
Yeah, well, you in the original 6-issue miniseries, you got he wasn't the lead, but he was one of the main supporting characters, And then in Scourge of the Mechanical Men, I just focused on him and Granville Woods. But he was really just dealing with Granville then. It was just the two of them. And now he has to deal with the whole team, which in fact has grown because we do have another team member now by the name of Alma Bryant, who by profession is an accountant, but is an amateur scientist who has been working with Caitlin in labor organizing in New York, and things kind of went sideways, and she has essentially formally joined the team. So instead of 3, we now have 4.
Hey, it's healthy for a team to grow, right?
Right.
Well, it is, and all the characters have to evolve and grow, and for all the downtime where in between the issues, Caitlin and Alma were living and working in New York, union organizing, and until certain things happened in other issues.
Strangely enough, people tend to not like union organizers. I don't know.
Well, the great houses definitely do not. So, but I mean, this was a time period when they were very active. So it's part of the alternate history bent that this universe takes.
Yeah, that was a time where working conditions were terrible, pretty much across the board.
Yes. And unions helped alleviate that. Though I have to say, then they kind of became kind of scary for a while, and then kind of dialed that back. It's just I always believe there needs to be a happy balance between unions and businesses, so everyone has a say at the table.
Yeah, that's what you hope for.
Yeah. So no, definitely you're gonna see these themes throughout Boston Metaphysical, which definitely deal with classism, sexism, and racism as well. But I just try not to, lecture about it or beat people over the head with it. And it just comes out as an organic issue as part of these people's lives.
Right. It was a thing, and it's going to be a part of who they are and how they present themselves. And ultimately, they are some of the evils that we've been fighting for a long time as a society. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do any of you guys know about Tammany Hall?
Yes.
Okay. Well, and how corrupt it was. I do have a story. Back in my college days, during the summertime, I took a part-time job at Safeway, which is, for those of you who don't know Safeway, it's a supermarket. All the employees are part of the union, and because some folks were just taking, vacation, the manager just wanted someone in there to fill in for the summer, and that's it. I wasn't going to be there full time. I was going back to school. So they put me to work, and I think, what was I doing? I was stocking some shelves, and this creepy guy in a polyester suit, probably in his 50s, and comes up to me and starts talking to me, and I'm looking at him like, why are you talking to me? And he says, don't worry, I'm with the union. And I'm like, okay, that's okay. And it turns out that one of the other employees had called the union because the supermarket had me wearing the wrong color apron.
What?
Correct.
Wow.
Apparently, I was wearing an apron that designated me that I should be working in the produce section and not stocking shelves. Yeah. So this big creepy guy, I mean, literally, he looked like he walked out of Tammany Hall. And for those of you who are listening, it was a very corrupt union during that time period. And yeah, go read the history on Tammany Hall. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, that he literally could have like walked out of the pages of that. But
And
anyway, we got
that's
that.
not for,
Yeah, but yeah, we got that worked out. Anyway, that's just a small aside from my past history from many, many years ago.
Yeah, that's not intimidating at all.
Oh no, because I must have been 18, 19 years old at the time, and utterly clueless about the whole union and how that hell worked. It's completely clueless.
Sure. Why would that even come up? You're only there for a couple of months.
Yeah.
You knew that going in. Right.
Yeah. There was no issue at all.
And they
But-
hadn't given you the handbook about the color schemes for the aprons or something, and these things happen.
These things happen, yeah. Yes, wrong color apron. But yeah, I think someone was a little overly sensitive. So, but that was many years ago. And so yeah, back to union organizing. Anyway, out at Tesla's back at Tesla's experimental station, we have nothing to do with unions. There's no unions involved in this story whatsoever. It has to do with Tesla's trying to develop wireless technology, amongst other things, working with his partner, Mai-Hu Chao, and who he resents very much so, her even being there. But her house has a financial stake in the project, so she's entitled to be there. And how this experimental station and what they're doing there affects Caitlin and what she learns because of this mystery that slowly unravels in front of them. So like I said, I don't want to give too much away. But yes, every issue has a cliffhanger, so you will hate me.
Well, then we're getting 1 and 2 with this Kickstarter, right?
Yes, you're getting 1 and 2, and then depending on how fast Elizabeth finishes 3 and 4, I had hoped my tentative plan is to do a Kickstarter in the fall for 3 and 4. So everyone at least they'll get a complete story sooner rather than later.
Right. Not that we want to put any pressure on Elizabeth or anything, but
No, she's doing a marvelous job. I mean, it really, Gwen, I love Gwen, and Gwen Tavares, my previous artist, we parted on very good terms. She has 2 children, both under the age of 3. And for those of you who have kids, that should tell you everything you need to know of why she could not continue with this.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I've only got the 1, and oh, yeah.
But yeah, we actually still chat every once in a while on Facebook, and I think the world of her. But yeah, Elizabeth is actually from Tbilisi, Georgia.
Oh, cool.
Katie is from the Pacific Southwest, and Angela Wu lives in Singapore. So we have a fairly international team here.
Right.
That makes for some fun meeting times, I'm sure.
Well, we do everything, obviously email. But I keep trying to figure out, okay, it's 7 o'clock, it's 7 a.m. my time, so it must be 7 p.m. in Georgia, in Tbilisi, and Singapore. I think they're just ahead of me, so I don't even bother. It's okay, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, it's tomorrow there. That's all you need to know.
It's tomorrow.
Sometime tomorrow.
But have you guys seen the covers yet? Because I think I posted it in an update. Mike, did you get that?
I'm actually looking at them from the newsletter right now.
Oh, from the newsletter. Yeah, I had them from the newsletter as well.
Yeah, they're very
Yeah,
nice.
Angela's doing a real interesting job. I found her. She had done some variant covers for Skies of Fire, Mythiopia with Ray Chow. And I liked what she did there. And so I said, hey, do you want to come on and do the main covers, all 4 main covers? And she said yes, and was very, very excited. And it's been really fun working with her. With Gwen, I basically told her exactly what I wanted on every cover, and she went and did it and worked out beautifully. But with Angela, I've just been giving her more broad strokes, and then she comes up with ideas, and we've been talking about it, and the collaboration's been a lot of fun.
Those are very nice.
Yeah,
I have to go back and look. I only got the one that to notify me when your Kickstarter started. Somehow I missed those covers. Those are very nice.
Yeah, she's done a real. They're a little bit outside of the box for what we've done in the past, but I figured it's time to do that. Do something a little different.
Yeah.
And when Troy saw them, our letterer, he was just in love with it and said, like, can you send me her portfolio? I must go see everything she has done, ever. Pretty much just like that. You must send her portfolio now, right now.
Well, it's good. It's good that he's getting so excited about the project, That's good.
Oh, yeah. Troy is great. Troy is absolutely great. I'm so happy he's really, really busy and overwhelmed with much bigger projects than mine. And so I'm very grateful that he's stayed on board for, what was it, 10 years now? Wow. Yeah, basically 10 years. I was reminded last year, 2022 was the 10th anniversary of Boston Metaphysical Society.
Dang, is that right?
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
That's awesome.
That is.
And so I guess we've basically gotten an issue out every year. We've got the 6-issue miniseries, and then we have the 4 sequels.
Mm-hmm. And then that's right. All the other stuff too.
And all the other stuff
in the middle, yeah.
And then
you had time to cram an audio drama in there, and write a novel and an entire slew of short stories, and just a few things here and there.
Just a few things.
It's good to stay busy, right?
Yeah, it's a little overwhelming. I've had to back off a little bit on some stuff because it's just I need some help, and I have to figure out how I'm going to work that out. But that's just me.
The business end. Ugh.
Yeah, the business end. It's necessary, unfortunately.
It is very.
But as a reminder, particularly for you guys who have been diligent supporters, is I'm having an early bird special for the first time ever.
Oh, really?
So, yes. So you will get there's a discounted issues 1 and 2 that will be available the first 48 hours. And that's my thank you to everyone who's stayed with me all these years. So get to save a few bucks.
Mm-hmm. And also tease, because like we said, this drops on Sunday, and it'll be past the 48 hours when this comes out. So you're telling us this, which we appreciate greatly.
It is.
Like, sorry for your listeners.
It's a hell of a tease for the listeners. Whoops. They'll understand.
Yeah. No, it happens, but
Yep.
We'll put that on our Discord too.
Right. We can make noise about that when it opens.
And we can say we tried.
Yeah, so we should go live on Wednesday, March 1st, probably between 11 and 11:30, it basically depends on how long it takes me to eat my lunch before I sit here at the computer and don't move for like 6 hours. So,
Just keeping it real.
yeah, people may think I'm kidding, but I'm not.
Oh, no. I believe you.
Now, as everything plays out for a Kickstarter and answering questions and if there's any issues or, getting the newsletter out and other emails out and social media. And I never like to stay on one social media too long, so I don't get put like in Facebook jail or something.
Right. A real risk, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't either because I know if they find me, I'm in deep trouble.
Yeah, Les is a big worker on dark Facebook.
The dark web.
Yeah, whatever that means, I don't even know, but
That's for me to know and you to find out, sir.
Absolutely. And every time I type those things into Google, I get weird messages, so it's all good.
Madeline, I want to say I commend you on stepping up, and like Mike said, you're bringing in some characters that I'm really looking forward to. Tesla has been a person that I have religiously tried to find information about. And the fact that you are doing a mystery, I'm ready. I want this bad.
Yeah, but it's really interesting and it'll be interesting to see if I get any pushback on some of these things that people will see about him. Like he used to smoke, and people don't realize that. But he did eventually figure out that this was bad for him, so he did stop. But he did smoke at one time, and he also liked to gamble. And so that was kind of fun to be able to integrate all of that into the story. And this was in his younger years. When he did this. But yeah, there's a lot of little interesting things, character things about that you never, I'd never heard about that, that he used to smoke, that he used to gamble. And, before he kind of slipped away into oblivion in his later years, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, he had a lot of issues, to put politely.
Well, I'm looking forward to them being brought to light. I think that's going to be a major thing. And to have people understand what kind of person he was and essentially what he was facing, trying to get his items done with the people that were standing against him. That's a major deal.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that if he had had a modern day business manager, that our lives would be very different right now. Because he was a bad businessman. And Edison was much better. And Edison was an opportunist, and he recognized what worked and what didn't.
Yes.
And Tesla didn't really. I think he was more in love with the research, which is completely fair. I mean, who wants to spend time? I mean, I'm a creator, but yet I have to spend a good portion of my time, dealing with business stuff, which I would rather not do, but it's necessary if I want to keep creating. And I think, he spent some time because he got funding from, Astor and some other folks who I actually bring in. You hear a little bit more about them. But Yeah, I mean, he was an interesting guy who, and I think, probably events eventually kind of overtook him as well. But if he had had a modern day business manager, yeah, things would have been different.
I agree.
But yeah, because there's no doubt that he was brilliant, but he was also obsessive, and which is part of what, you see that in the original 6-issue miniseries, his obsessiveness. So, even though everything I do it's completely fictional, it is kind of rooted thematically in people's relationships as far as the historical figures are. Granville T. Woods, who's, as you guys know, who's part of the team. For the your listeners who don't know, he's an African American scientist who actually existed and who is part of the Boston Metaphysical team. He actually lived in Ohio for a long time. I brought him to Boston because, well, I can do that since I'm the writer. But the real Granville ended up in upstate New York, running a business with his brother. And there's not a whole lot known about Granville. And he did die in obscurity as well, unfortunately. I believe there's a plaque dedicated to him. I forget which city it is right now, but it's in New York somewhere. But he to my knowledge, never married, but in the Boston Metaphysical universe, I actually gave him a family. I gave him a sister and a niece and all that other good stuff. Just so he would have some grounding as a character. But yeah, no, there's a lot of interesting folks out there, and for those who want to do alternate history or historical fiction, for me, it's, you can present people any way you want to because it's fiction and it's your world, but it's always good to ground it in some little point of reality, because it just makes it feel true to your audience.
Very good.
Cool. So, to backtrack just a little bit.
Sure.
The ghost ship.
Yes.
For one, the ghost ship was the audio drama that came out a year and a half ago.
Yeah, roughly.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting little story about a ghost ship that sails into Boston Harbor, and the team ends up having to deal with it because there's clearly there's basically a laundry list of weird things going on in the city around it. So how do you feel about how that was received and how it went? The audio drama itself. I'm just curious.
It went beautifully. The cast was amazing. I wrote it and produced it. And for those of you who think producing is glamorous, you would be wrong. Producing, it's essentially you're almost like the office manager. You're putting together the schedules, casting, contracts, legal stuff, getting people paid, responding to emails of people who, didn't get hired. All of the people who did audition or who sent reels in, I did send every one of them a, thank you, but we went with somebody else. And apparently in the voiceover world, that's fairly unusual. I was told that normally they send their reels out into the ether, and unless they're hired, they generally never hear anything. So I did spend the time to do that.
I wish that wasn't unique to. I wish that was. You get that in pretty much every industry, from what I understand. But yeah.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, and I was also very fortunate to have Eddie Louise and Chip Michael as my production team. They're the husband and wife team who created and produced the audio drama Sage and Savant, which is like a steampunk time travel thing, which is really good, by the way, if you want to go listen to it. I'm sure you can download it for free somewhere on your favorite podcasting platform. And in fact, I actually blame all the audio drama on Eddie Louise, because she and I were at the Nebula Awards pre-pandemic, and she said, I really think you should do that. I think, Boston Metaphysical would be perfect as an audio drama. And I said, I don't disagree. I agree, but I don't know anything about producing one or making one happen. And she says, well, we do. And I said, well, if I do it, then I have to hire you and Chip. And so here comes the pandemic, and, we can't do any cons. We can't do anything, except maybe run a Kickstarter. And I applied to California small business grants, and they gave me a grant, which was wonderful, which was the seed money to finance the audio drama. So I said, okay, we're not doing anything right now, so let's go do this. And I hired them on board, and they were amazing. Eddie was my script editor, so she helped fine-tune the first, audio drama I'd ever written, which was really interesting. I like writing in different formats, so it was a nice challenge. Chip was amazing. Chip ended up doing the directing. He was the audio engineer, and he produced original music for it. So he wore many, many hats, all of which were enormous. and we got an amazing cast on board. They were so much fun to work with. And I have to say with Chip, with Sage and Savant, they put together an interesting way to do recordings and auditions that I guess most other audio dramas don't do. A lot of times, once you're hired, the actor gets sent the lines, they record several renditions of them in different ways, and they send it in, and that's pretty much it. Unless they want them to do some other takes or something. But what we did, Chip's methodology, is when I narrowed down the cast to about 3 people for each major part, and then we brought them into a Zoom and broke it out into different rooms. So the folks potentially going to play Samuel, Caitlin, and Granville, they could go rehearse in one room, and then we'd bring them into another room where Chip and I would listen to them and make notes, and then we'd go around, and that's how I eventually decided who was going to be hired and who wasn't, and also to see who had chemistry and who didn't. Mm-hmm. And then after that, once everyone was hired, obviously everyone got the script. And then what we did is we brought everyone, we broke it up into 3 sessions, because this was, we had 8 episodes, 2, 4, 6, 4 sessions, excuse me. So it was 2 episodes per session, and we would get on Zoom and run through it twice on Zoom, with both Chip and I giving notes and direction. Mostly Chip. I was shadowing him and learning how to direct. Mm-hmm. And then we moved over to Zencastr and just did a run-through all the way through. And then what Chip would do would take that recording and pull out the voice of, say, the person playing, Ryan, who was playing Samuel, and all of them, and then send those actors a copy without their part. So they could listen to the other actors and record their part while listening to the actors so they could respond to them. And
Wow.
It was a lot more involved, but we got much better performances from everybody.
You would better reactions and stuff.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
Much better reactions. So,
Right. They're not having to fake the reactions, so
Right.
that's automatically better.
yeah, so it's like Emily would be able to hear, Ryan and Martin playing Samuel and Granville and be able to respond accordingly. And yeah, they would still give us different takes for each of them. And then I would go through every single one and note my preference and then send it to Chip. And then Chip would listen and see if our preferences matched. I let him make the final cut unless I had something that just said, like, no, like, this is wrong. We have to do it another way. But yeah, it was an enormous amount of work.
It sounds like it.
Enormous amount of work. And as my husband said, if I want to do it again, I basically need to have an audio division. I can't be all of it. It's not humanly possible anymore, and still be able to do the other work I want to do.
Oh, so much for my next question then, which is when are you planning on a second one? Maybe not.
I think we would love to. I'm not sure it's going to be doable just because of timing and scheduling. I mean, everyone is incredibly busy, and I know Eddie and Chips, I think he's out taking care of his mom right now.
Oh, dang.
So,
Okay.
so everybody is doing their thing. Yeah, I mean, I would love to do another one, but yeah, I would essentially have to set up another, separate division of my corporation that just handles the audio. And I would essentially, come up with the basic storyline, hand it over to someone else to write, and then I would co-produce with somebody else. Because there's not enough hours in the day. And I have to actually sleep and spend time with my husband and my dogs and stuff.
All of those commitments and stuff. Jeez, what the heck?
I know. I know.
So
some
hard.
people are going to be very, very disappointed because I had a number of people say, like, so when's the next one? When's the next one? I really love this. When's the next one? I'm going like, I don't know. I mean, I actually need to have an audio division. Make that happen.
Well, I mean, at least it's helping you understand how complex the plan will be when you get that big,
Yes. But it was great, and enjoyed every minute of it. And like I said, getting to know the actors, they were just terrific. And I have a much greater appreciation for voice actors now. I always did, but now even more so.
Right. Now you've been at least really close to the process, if not inside it. It's a different perspective for sure. Yeah,
most definitely. And, the different voices, the different tones that everyone can do. And I don't remember, Mike, did you get the CD or did you just get the full download?
I got the flash drive. I got the cool little wooden flash drive with the ship engraved on it.
Oh, okay, great. So you also got the commentary as well. So you got to hear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which was really kind of nice. I mean, not to tease the people who didn't get that, but it was kind of cool. It helped kind of it gave us a little glimpse at the voice actors themselves
Yeah.
in their little bits in there, and which was kind of a really nice little piece to add to it that made you appreciate it made me appreciate the process more.
Yeah, it was all very interesting, and it was really nice of them to do it. I said, you don't have to do more than 5 minutes. I know, you're really busy. Just do 5 minutes, talk about the production and everything, and that, no more than that. And they were all totally fine with that.
And some of them were longer than 5 minutes, but anyway.
A couple of them were, which is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. They were great.
I think myself and Eddie and Chip, we were longer, but we're the production crew, so we can do that.
Right, there were 3 of you on that, so it was a little more back and forth. It was almost like you were interviewing each other. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, we were actually. That was the intent, is that we were interviewing each other. And then, listening to. And then we got our 2 Ryans. Samuel played Samuel, and also Jimmy. And who knew that Emily and Ryan could sing that well? That gave me chills. The first time I heard them do that Chip sent me the recording, listening to them singing, was like, oh my God, they're so good.
That was a pretty cool moment for sure.
I mean, which was the intent, which is why I wrote it in there, was to show how they were kind of not in sync at first. She was trying to teach him how to control his psychic ability, and then by the end of the song, they were in sync and they were harmonizing, and that was the intent.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
so.
And it worked pretty well, I thought.
Oh yeah.
And by the way, all of this stuff is available on Madeline's website right now. So.
That's right. The CD is there. Yes.
Don't want to forget to mention that part.
That's right. And you can also download it through your favorite podcasting platform. The difference is that the free download has commercials and does not have the commentaries.
Right.
I don't sell the flash drive anymore, but the CD does contain the commentaries.
Cool.
And it has a beautiful cover art.
It does.
Yeah, Gwen did that.
Cool.
No, that story came from when I was at UCLA. As you guys know, I have an MFA in screenwriting. Your audience may know, but I think you guys know this. Mm-hmm. But the last year there, I was on the TV track, which is where I originally developed Boston Metaphysical. But one of the classes I took, I had to write a 5th episode. Like a random 5th episode, which would have been if it went to series. And the thought behind this was that if you can write a 5th episode for your series, then it has legs. And, there's enough to it that you can keep going. Well, the Ghost Ship is based on that 5th episode that I wrote.
Oh, wow.
I changed it a lot, but the basic premise is from that episode, which was also called The Ghost Ship. And there are some references to the Ghost Ship in Mystery at Pike's Peak.
Ooh.
Ooh. So, yeah, some little references that, when you read all through Pike's Peak, and if you've listened to the audio drama, you're going like, oh, I know about that. I know all about that. Yes. That fits. That works. So now I have a dog that just wants to be petted. He got out of his bed, and he's like, okay, it's time for you to pet me.
Well, he's probably not wrong.
No. He's not wrong. So, yeah, and at some point, I probably mentioned this a year or so ago, the last time I was on the show, I do have a 3 novel trilogy that I have yet to finish. I have the first book done, but it covers what I call the House Wars, which is the Boston metaphysical version of the American Civil War, but this time it's between the great houses of the North and South. And so, yeah, I look forward that when we're done with this Kickstarter that I can actually go back to that. That's the plan anyway.
That'd be cool, because there's some teases about some of that stuff in the book of short stories. Couple of the short stories kind of go back that far.
Yes.
Which is cool.
Yeah. No, that's quite true. The short stories run the gamut of before the House Wars, during the House Wars, and after the House Wars. And I'm looking forward to getting back to the novels, just because I get to focus on 2 female characters. One's middle-aged, one's in her mid to late 20s, and they're not related. So it's not a mother and daughter. It's Beatrice Wellsmore, who is at that moment in time head of House Wellsmore, and before Elizabeth Wellsmore Hunter, Samuel's wife, is born, and an airship designer and pilot by the name of Gwen Warwick, and how they end up having to work together during the House Wars. And they don't like it at all.
Well, heck no, you wouldn't get 3 novels out of it if they were going to like it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but we go down to the South. We get to see how what the Southern houses are doing, and yes, there's definitely a supernatural element going on. So it's interesting, and learn more about House Tillinghast, which you will be hearing more of in the future.
Oh, cool.
And that's actually a real name, too, from the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what you find out in your research. It's like, this is a cool name. I will use it. And I get to even bring in some of my family's history.
Ooh.
Yes. So when you write this stuff, it's like, oh, I can make my family into a great house.
Well, yeah, you're the writer. You can do that.
I'm the writer. I can do that. I mean, they don't exist anymore, but yeah, I can do that.
That's all right. They did.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that somewhere.
Maybe writing their demise into a story could be fun. Who knows? Watch them go out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah. Well, on my mother's side, my family was originally from Oregon, and my great grandparents were Stellmachers. That was their last name, Stellmacher. And so I created a House Stellmacher from Oregon, and for the novels, which was fun. But if you actually go to Oregon, you will find streets that are called Stellmacher Avenue and Stellmacher Boulevard, because the Stellmachers actually did used to own a good chunk of Oregon way back in the day. So,
well, that's cool.
Yeah. So it's fun to bring that kind of background history of your own into it. And I do have relatives up there. I have a feeling I have many more relatives up there than I even know about. But I'm actually a Stellmacher. So, from back in the day. But yes, for those of you who are writers out there, you can use your own family history. Why not?
Absolutely. who knows? The simple act of researching your family history might uncover something interesting. And if not, you can just make it up. It's cool.
Or something you didn't really want to know.
Well, absolutely.
You're always at the risk of doing that.
Ah, that's half the fun.
That's true. That's true.
How far back do you have to go to find the dirty laundry or the skeletons in the closet and all that?
Well, that depends on the family. For some, you don't have to go back very far.
No, for me it was yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to say dinner time for me. But yeah. All right, cool. Do you want to throw one more pitch for Mystery at Pike's Peak?
I sure can. Well, I know this drops next Sunday, but we launched on March 1st. It is a 4-issue miniseries that continues the adventures of Samuel, Caitlin Granville, and now Alma, who is part of the team. You do not need to have read the previous sequels or the trade paperback to enjoy this story, but it will definitely increase your reading pleasure and give you more depth into the universe. Try to hop on as soon as you can so you can take advantage of the early bird specials and the limited metal covers that we have available. And so we start on March 1st, so I guess that means we end on March 29th or 30th. I always get confused with the way they do the timing on Kickstarter.
It's a 30-day campaign.
I know it is a 30-day campaign, but the way it's just weird when you look at it.
Well, yeah, whatever that means, that's what it is.
It's a 30. I always tell people it ends a couple days before it actually ends, just in case.
Right. Give them, the last minute people, a chance to get in there. Absolutely.
That's right.
That's
right.
And we will have links in our show notes for all of this stuff, and I'm sure I will be blasting stuff out on Twitter when I can. So.
Well, I do appreciate you having me on the show again. It's been fun, and I hope everyone is doing well.
Oh yeah, anytime you want, we'd love to have you.
Yep, we sure do.
Great, thank you.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break and be back with Geek News for You. And we're back. It's time for Geek News for You. In this segment, we bring a couple of news items to the table for discussion. For this week, it is Liz and myself. And Liz, would you like to go first?
Sure. This was kind of interesting when I saw it. Apparently, Warner Brothers has once again bought the rights to Lord of the Rings. Which, of course, we know what they did with it last time with Peter Jackson, and they made, 6 movies? So, the interesting part of this is they haven't came out and said anything yet about who's going to be directing these films. But, of course, when it was first announced, the first people they went and talked to was Peter Jackson. And he's like, oh, yes, we've talked about this. He hasn't said, we've talked about me doing this, but more of, we've talked about them doing this and what their process, and they're going to keep me informed every step of the way of what they're doing. I'm kind of excited because why would you do that for one, Maybe we'll get some more out of Peter Jackson. But, just this past, summer, Amazon released their Rings of Power, and this was supposed to go before the time of Lord of the Rings, and so far they've done that pretty well. They haven't stepped on any toes or changed anything that was definitely down with, the Warner Brother movies already. So, what are they doing? If they're not, this will also be before the time of Lord of the Rings, But if you have the rights over here to Amazon and they're using this time and you can't touch this time, kind of what's left? So I'm curious to see what direction they're going to take this. I'm also curious on some of these fanboys. I'm not saying that in a mean way, but whenever Amazon released Rings of Power, Peter Jackson's name kept getting thrown around there. And yes, this will always be his Opus D. You know, that was probably the best thing he will ever do in his lifetime. Probably the best thing he wants to do in his lifetime. So I'm kind of curious if he'll be, do you want to touch that again? Do you want to leave it alone? Or basically, too, what are they going to tell us? What story are they going to tell us? One thing that popped in my head, which I was hoping, me and Michael talk about this later on a different episode, but in Rings of Power, when they introduced a certain character, my mind instantly went to, oh, this is Tom Baldy. You know, it has to be. It absolutely has to be, you know. And of course it wasn't. It absolutely wasn't and didn't have to be. But I kind of felt like they missed that opportunity to bring him into the Lord of the Ring franchise or movie franchise, you know, especially with what he did in Tolkien's work. So I'm hoping they kind of touch on him, let everyone know why he was important. A lot of things, what people don't know by just watching the movie. Originally Frodo was not supposed to be the one to carry the ring. And when the Fellowship all got together, that was who they actually wanted to carry the ring, was Tom. So I'm hoping they bring him in and kind of talk to him, you know, give us a little glimpse of him. I think that would be a great story. I hope, I don't know how many people agree with me here, but I really hope they use maybe not Peter Jackson as full director, but at least come to him with maybe some creative direction on this. Kind of find out, hey, you know, if we do it like this, how would you do it, kind of thing, if he doesn't do it. So we shall see. I'm hoping it doesn't go the way of The Hobbit, but yeah.
You realize Jackson did The Hobbit, right?
Huh?
You realize that Peter Jackson did those movies too, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yes. But they weren't as great as the trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm curious if he'll even be interested in touching this, because, you know, after a while in a person's career, when you do something that great, you're constantly just going to chase it because, you know, how do you top what you did, you know? And I feel like Lord of the Rings will always be that for him. I know he's done good stuff before that, kind of minor stuff before that and some good stuff after, but I don't know. I would be kind of scared to touch it in case it flopped.
Right.
You know? Because you already have this good, I mean, what, Lord of the Rings was nominated for 30 awards and took home 17 of those. That's kind of hard to top, you know?
Yeah, beat that.
Yeah. And I think that's probably why he kind of chuckled when not only Amazon picked this up, but they kind of cut him out of, you know, he was like, at first we were talking, you know, we were brainstorming together, and then all of a sudden they completely cut him out. So I think they're paying for that now. But I kind of, like I said, if he's not director, I hope at least he has some kind of creative on this. But like I said, my mind's been going crazy of what story can they tell. There's a lot, but which one are they going to pick up? Because once again, you can't step on Amazon, who's doing their own little thing. And they said, 7 seasons they've been guaranteed? And golly, they covered 2 years in 6 episodes. So, you know, they're chugging along at some pace. So I'm curious if they'll catch up with where this new story is going to, well, I shouldn't say new story, but new to theater story is going to be.
Well, and let's keep this in mind. Just because they're guaranteed 7 seasons doesn't mean they'll actually
do it.
do it.
Yeah.
They're just given that cushion, which thank God this is Amazon, not Netflix, because Netflix word means shit. So.
Netflix wouldn't have said anything past 3. So.
Right. Yeah.
But still, they could say, well, okay, you got 3 seasons, and turn around and cancel you after the first season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think that, I don't want to say too much, but I definitely think that Amazon learned a big lesson. And I think that they're going to use this time now to come back and kind of fix some of those things. I think they went into this comfortable. For one, like we said, they were guaranteed 7 seasons. But for 2, it's Lord of the Rings. How do you fail doing Lord of the Rings? So I think they went in a little too confident and forgot that their writing had to be up there too, But I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, this is the original people who gave us the first, what people are now in love with, who haven't touched the book. So we'll see. I'm excited though. Because even love it or hate it, like I said about the Amazon series, if nothing else, this will pull more people into the literature world and be like, where did this story come from? And they'll go and read the books, and Tolkien stays alive for another 30 years,
Yep.
At least. So don't fuck it up, Warner Brothers. I'll cut you.
Oh, nice.
Okay. For me, my article some of this we had already covered in the past from other articles, so we may be covering a little bit of old ground, but hey, that's okay. The article I'm bringing to the table, some of this we have discussed in the past from other articles, so we may be covering a little old ground, but it's talking about the fact that movie theaters are having to rethink things in a post-pandemic world. According to this, the total number of screens in the U.S. have decreased by around 3,000 since 2019, and now under 40,000 screens in the United States. And an article is talking about the theater owners are need to think about getting new equipment, maybe pulling out the old stadium seating for recliners and updating the menus and that kind of stuff is for a little bit more enjoyable experience. And even so far as to, open spaces being reinvigorated as like bowling alleys or arcades or that kind of stuff, to be a little bit more of a go-to place, which, there's some theaters that have been doing that
Mm-hmm.
for several years, but just some of these big chains hadn't, because, hey, we're carrying 30, we have 30 theaters, so we're carrying about two dozen films, and it's just the films themselves that are having people come to the theaters. Well, that's no longer the case. So they have to rethink things. Also talk about some of the stuff that Alamo Drafthouse has been doing since its inception, like the Fathom events, just some kind of events or something to just kind of hey, let's have a party, like Alamo Drafthouse would do like a Saturday morning cartoons, so you can show up there in your pajamas and you can have cereal and then you're watching cartoons and that kind of stuff. That kind of thing. Make it more of an event, make it a little bit more festive, so it's not just, well, you're going to the movie to have theater. Going to the movies to see the film, that is more of an experience and that type of thing. for us, this is kind of like a no duh, but apparently it's slowly creeping into the thought processes of some of the theater owners that, hey, we in the words of in Blazing Saddles, we need to protect our phony baloney jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Harumph.
harumph. So it's be interesting to see what's going to happen. According to this, hang on a second. Through February 20th, they said ticket sales for this year have tallied up to 958.5 million. And that's up almost 50% compared to 2022 and down 25% from 2029 in the same amount of time.
2019.
2019. So pre-pandemic.
Right.
Hmm.
In 2021, that same time period, 98.7
million tickets.
Sales. Box office tallies. Ticket sales.
Right, ticket sales.
Yeah. So things are getting better, but they're still not to the way things were before the pandemic, and there's a good possibility they never will, especially with the advent of simultaneously being on streaming services. Yeah. So who knows?
Well, I mean, if there's an upside, it's that it doesn't sound like we're talking about a dead industry here.
Right.
That's a lot of ticket sales. So that's good.
So,
I mean, nobody wanted movie theaters to die.
No, I don't think so.
I think we thought they might for a little bit there, but
yeah,
I don't think any of us wanted it to happen. So good.
But I also would want theaters to think a little more closely as to what they want to put on the screen in the respect, and you brought up Alamo Drafthouse, the local Alamo had Ant-Man and the Wasp on all their screens, and that's all they were showing. To me, it would have been nicer to have a little more diverse look into films. And I'm not saying that there's a lot out there, especially something that would be so inviting to me personally. But you got to have more than that.
Well, that's very surprising that Alamo would do that. I guess I assume they did that because they thought that the demand would be there.
Yeah, it's a big draw. I understand, but just take it with a grain of salt.
Because I don't remember them doing anything like that for like Endgame, and that would have been a movie that should have had that, because that is the climax of a storyline that's taken 10 years to get to that point. So yeah, this is as opposed to Ant-Man, and I'm not trying to belittle Ant-Man, no pun intended. I mean, yes, they're trying to set things up for the next major story and all that. I get that, but still, it doesn't make sense to use all the screens to show Ant-Man. I could see maybe half, 3, and then the other, and maybe that's even pushing it, because the big screen and probably the second biggest screen will have it, because that's supposedly the draw.
True.
Maybe.
And then you have, then the other 4 screens are showing other things that are out now, or have some of these special events that Alamos is famous for doing.
Uh-huh.
But hey, what do I know?
I know that's their choice, and that part I can understand.
It would be interesting to see what their thoughts on how that went. Was that successful or not? I mean, it did real well opening weekend, but as we had mentioned prior to recording, there was a 70% drop between week 1 and weekend 1 and weekend 2. That's massive.
Well, maybe I'm cynical, which is its own little
Maybe.
joke, because we all know I'm cynical.
Mm-hmm.
But given the deals that happen between movie theaters and studios for distribution purposes,
Mm-hmm.
I find myself wondering if maybe the studio was, or the distributor was offering a discount somehow for a theater to show it on all screens,
Yeah.
so that it made more sense to them to do it for all screens than it would to just do it on their 2 biggest, for example.
That's possible.
It's possible.
Seems odd I don't know how many screens the local Alamo has, but I would have thought that would make more sense to a theater that had more screens. But that doesn't mean that Alamo couldn't take advantage of the deal in
Right.
that way. And I mean, if that's the case, then it would be a good for them situation, because they got to stick it to the man a little bit. But yeah, it does seem out of character for Alamo. But hey, maybe they were just trying something.
Yeah.
Maybe they just figured,
That's
screw it, we'll
possible.
just do this once and see what happens. See how it works out for us. And who knows?
I don't know. That's a big gamble for that film. If I feel I'm Alamo and Marvel Studios or whoever came up with, assuming that they were the ones that came up with the idea, if they were doing that for Guardians 3, oh hell yeah, I would jump at that.
Maybe.
Because for all intents and purposes, this is the last Guardians film, especially in this version, because not everybody's coming back, especially James Gunn. So there's going to be I think there's going to be a lot more interest in that as opposed to Ant-Man and the Wasp. But once again, what do I know?
And maybe this is a test run for that.
It could be,
or something. Or maybe they had to buy into this one to buy into that one. You never know. I'm sure that business is a crazy business. So
well, I mean, God knows they do that on the comic side. Comic side. God, I remember that stuff. Remember that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought of when.
You buy this number of books, you'll be allowed to be able to order this number of books, and it just that shit pissed me off big time.
It's bringing back flashbacks even now, several years removed.
Really hated playing that game.
Mm-hmm.
Pain in the ass.
So, but. I mean, this is good news. If they're jumping on, they need to rethink things. If you build it, they will come. Well, that's not necessarily the case anymore.
No.
So they need to think a little bit more about what they need to do to get people to come in and spend some money, whether it's a movie or go bowl or, you know, hell, some probably even have some kind of laser tag or some shit like that. Hey, if it works, it works. You've got people coming in. That's what they're wanting.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Any special shout outs? Obviously, Madeline is.
Yep. Thank Madeline for coming and hanging out with us again, and
Yeah,
go
for
check
sure.
out her Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. Any other shout outs?
No, not this week.
No.
Okay, we'll go on to our regular shout-outs. First off, want to thank Pop Goes the Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be part of a great group of fellow podcasts. There's a link in the show notes where you can check them out. Thank you guys, as always. Want to thank the fine men and women who've been kind enough to spread the word of the fellowship by retweeting our tweets on Twitter. And that is Pottern Family. Go check them out. The best way to do that is to search hashtag Pottern Family. Just scroll through the list, and whatever catches your attention, click on that link and download that episode, and I hope you have a good time listening to them. Want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. In our show notes, there will be a link to where you can check out their music. Thank you, guys. And you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. Any questions, comments, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you, please send them our way. Email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net is our email address. Or you can go to the website, go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out there. If you join our Discord, we do have a feedback channel specifically for that or whatever comments or questions you might have. Social media, we're on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. We are on Instagram, Hive Social, and Twitter under @FellowshipGeeks. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. Les may or may not be found @FakeLesWebster. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you take a couple moments to rate and review the show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We do appreciate your support as always. Until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @FellowshipGeeks. Until next time,